Welcome back to Poorly Educated Today in the News. Y'all ever wake up, look at the headlines, and think, dang, I didn't sign up for the DLC version of America? Well, buckle up, 'cause today's news looks like somebody mixed a Tom Clancy novel, a Waffle House parking lot fight, and whatever the heck Davos is. Sounds like a fancy place where rich folks pretend they ain't the problem. Segment 1. America buys Greenland. Kinda, sorta, maybe. So apparently we ain't buying Greenland. We just getting the keys to the good parts. Like we're borrowing our cousin's four-wheeler as long as we don't scratch it. They call it a framework deal, which is fancy talk for, we threatened Europe with tariffs and they blinked harder than a possum in high beams. Now the US gets to build a giant missile shield up there called the Golden Dome, which sounds like a fancy breakfast biscuit I'd absolutely eat with sausage gravy. This thing's supposed to stop hypersonic missiles, which is ironic, because I can't stop my hypersonic uncle from ruining Thanksgiving. And the best part? Zelensky shows up at Davos like, hey, y'all forgot about me. He's out there offering to help sink Russian ships near Greenland. That's quite a commute. That's like complaining your neighbor won't mow his yard, so you offer to trim his vacation home in Florida. But bless him, he's trying. And now there's a new group called the Board of Peace, which is just a bunch of countries that paid $1 billion to join. Imagine world peace but run like a Costco membership. Hi, welcome to the Board of Peace. Would you like a sample of conflict resolution? Segment 2. Operation Catch of the Day. DHS goes fishing for people. Down in Maine, DHS launched Operation Catch of the Day. Ain't that cute? A fish pun. Nothing says responsible governance like pretending human beings are lobsters you pull out of a trap. They're targeting Somali communities, which is a real bold choice since Maine ain't exactly known for diversity outside the seafood aisle. Governor Janet Mills is madder than a raccoon stuck in a grain silo. Maine officials even refused to give DHS undercover license plates, so now federal agents gotta drive around in whatever they rented at Hertz. Probably a bright red Kia Soul with a pine-scented air freshener. That'll blend in real good. And DHS is offering $2,600 for voluntary self-deportation. $2,600? Brother, that's barely enough to move across town, let alone across the planet. That's like telling someone, hey, here's a Chili's gift card. Now uproot your life. Segment 3. Trump versus Cook. The Supreme Court wonders if the Fed can still say no. Over at the Supreme Court, they're trying to figure out if the president can fire a Federal Reserve governor for filling out her mortgage paperwork wrong. That's the big national emergency? My cousin Kenny filled out every piece of paperwork wrong when he applied for a loan, including writing his name as Kenneford, and the bank still gave him money for a jet ski. But the real problem is, the president wants the Fed to cut interest rates, 'cause inflation's still stickier than molasses on a microwave plate. Meanwhile, Lisa Cook is over there holding the line like a hall monitor who takes her job just a little too seriously. And now the court's gotta decide whether monetary policy should depend on economic stability or whoever's loudest on Truth Social. If they let presidents fire Fed governors for mortgage typos, we're 5 minutes away from presidents picking interest rates with a magic 8-ball. Should we raise rates? Shake, shake, outlook hazy, raise tariffs instead. Segment 4. The economy. Markets celebrate while inflation hits. Everyone like a tractor rut. The Dow jumped 600 points 'cause the markets realized we ain't starting a trade war. Energy stocks jumped, materials jumped, everything jumped except my paycheck. Gold hit nearly $5,000 an ounce, which means gold jewelry is now basically a retirement plan. If you see a grandma wearing a heavy necklace, congratulations. You're looking at Fort Knox. Bitcoin is at 90,000. That means someone who bought crypto instead of a house in 2015 is now feeling real smug at family reunions. Hey, Uncle Larry, you got a mortgage? I got a JPEG worth more than your truck. PCE inflation, meanwhile, keeps creeping like a raccoon at a campground. Folks got less disposable income and savings rates lower than my GPA in 10th grade. That's what they call stagflation, which sounds like an outdoor theme party, but is actually economic sadness in slow motion. Intel's stock soared like an over-caffeinated hawk, and AI chip companies are getting more funding than my cousin's GoFundMe to build the world's first off-road jacuzzi. Photonic chips? Chips made of light? Buddy, I grew up thinking Cool Ranch Doritos were fancy. Now the world's out here computing with rainbows. Segment 5, Crisis and Chaos, Uvalde Verdict, Gaza Strikes, and Cricket Drama. A jury acquitted a Uvalde school officer who didn't go in during the shooting. They say cops don't actually have a legal duty to protect anybody. Well, dang, I've been telling that to my HOA for years. Sir, you left your garbage out. Not my legal duty, Sharon? Meanwhile, in Gaza, Israeli airstrikes killed 3 journalists riding in a clearly marked aid vehicle. I don't care what side folks argue about. Hitting journalists is like turning off the lights before reading a map. It just makes everything worse. Over 258 journalists have died. That's a number so big even my high school math teacher would give up trying to round it. Then we got Bangladesh boycotting the T20 Cricket World Cup in India. Cricket fights are always polite. Their version of trash talk is probably, "I say, sir, your wicket technique is rather gauche." Bangladesh wants out because they feel disrespected. And if they leave, Scotland takes their place. Imagine telling a Bangladeshi athlete, "Sorry, man, you've been replaced by someone named Hamish McSomething." Segment 6, Planetary Panic, Winter Storm Fern and the billion-dollar boiling ocean. Half the country's about to be hit by Winter Storm Fern, stretching from Texas to New England. Texas already declared an emergency, 'cause anytime it drops below 50 degrees, half their infrastructure passes out on the floor like it saw a ghost. The storms bring in ice so thick they're warning folks not to drive, walk, breathe, or think too hard near sidewalks. And while we're freezing, the oceans are boiling. New UN report says hot oceans cost the world $2 trillion a year. $2 trillion, and here I am complaining about a $12 grocery store rotisserie chicken. They say the oceans are absorbing so much heat, they're basically slow cooking the planet like a giant sous vide nobody asked for. The world spends $7.3 trillion on stuff that destroys nature and only $220 billion on fixing it. That's like spending $7,000 a year breaking windows and $200 buying duct tape. No wonder the fish are mad. And just to wrap the day up nicely, the Census Bureau put out new numbers to help count folks more accurately. Then the president pardoned a lady again, even after she committed more fraud after her first pardon. Man, if I got pardoned twice, I'd at least have the decency to commit a different kind of crime. Mix it up, show creativity. In conclusion, the world today looks like a snowstorm, a trade war, a court hearing, a chip factory, an immigration raid, and a boiling ocean all walked into a Cracker Barrel at the same time. But don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow with more chaos, more confusion, and more poorly educated wisdom to guide you through America's favorite hobby: watching the news and wondering how any of this is real.